or not, I've never been accused of not being able to be heard, but thank you for coming, even by those who didn't hear me, but that's okay too, because I'm Tom Shipley. I'm State Senator for District 11, which is not right here. As you well know, who's the State Senator for right here, you get that, partly why we're here today. I cover from the east side of Council Bluffs. I do have a piece of Council Bluffs from the east side, all the way back through to the almost Interstate 35, across over the Atlantic, down to Corning, and then to Creston. So, we certainly appreciate you guys being here today. We all know why we're here. We have been talking about it ourselves as Republicans in the state Senate with a goal, and we have a plan, and we have a lot of very positive progress towards our goal. We need two more people to on our side of the room to end some of the frustration we have of bringing some of the issues that you people want brought up. It is frustrating at the Dickens for me, not as much as it is constituents, because I get it, but many constituents, when they email, they want us to do this and do that. I says, yes, I understand. We certainly want to. But sometimes we can't even get that brought up for a discussion. And that just is maddening. And at least it ought to be brought up for a discussion, brought up to a vote. If it isn't going to pass, so be it. But we don't even, we'd rather have it pass, certainly. We don't even get a chance to talk about it. And that's not, just not the way we think it ought to be done. So we've got a lot of very good candidates out there running, and we're very optimistic that we're going to get those seats back and hang on to the ones we have. And one of the people that's being a big leader in making that happen is our state Republican chairman, Jeff Kaufmann. I'd like to introduce Jeff at this time.
Thank you, Senator. I hear a lot of good things about you, and we're going to hear a whole lot more when finally we infuse a little democracy back in the Iowa Senate again. That's for sure. Just a couple of things at the outset. First of all, we're doing about 6 of these. I believe I'm doing 6. I was in Autumnal yesterday. It was Cedar Rapids the week before. Next week, I think we've got Ames and Davenport and Dubuque. And we're coming here to Council Bluffs. I'm here today. I was right within throwing distance of the Mississippi River about 4 hours ago, or 5 hours ago. I don't know, I'm on the phone so much, it was dragging time. But I hope by my being here, just in and of itself, is sending a message. And the message is that Council Bluffs is very, very important. Western Iowa in general is very, very important to what we need to do in the Republican Party. And in terms of the Iowa Senate, you folks literally, and this is not, I'm not just saying this because you are here. I'd say this if I'm in Davenport next week. You folks here literally have a chance to change the direction of Iowa because of who you have residing within the borders of Council Bluffs. I'll talk just a little bit about that later. So I'm here in Council Bluffs because you've got a lot of very important races, and our Republicans up and down the Missouri River are very, very important. I'm an Eastern Iowa guy. So when I come over to Western Iowa, I'm always learning something too. You got a beautiful library, by the way. It's a really neat, beautiful day, a beautiful library. Talk about some very serious things. I also want to say I talked to Greg Forrestal. I used to serve with Greg. I was in the Iowa House for 8 years, served with Greg, and he's in the hospital right now. But he's getting, things are getting dealt with, and he says he'll be back out and ready to fight the battle soon. So I told him that I would mention that to all of you when I visited with him on the way over today. This is about United Iowa. We started this about a year ago. And I've got several messages. In fact, I got so much that I have to, every time I go over to say, okay, what am I not going to say? And I know one person I was going to talk about when I was in Council Bluffs, that's for sure. In fact, I've been chopping it a bit. But I want to basically look at 3 things. First thing I want to dispel here is this whole idea and this speculation are Republicans divided. We are absolutely no more divided now than we ever have been after a bruising primary and caucus season. In fact, we are way ahead of schedule, to be honest with you. I just finished about a 500-page book. I mean, it was an intricate dense book on the election season of 1980. Believe me, on the E before Ronald Reagan changed the direction of this country, Republicans were divided. And some Republicans take longer than others to get back and move into a march order. Because here's the thing, folks. You just look at this contrast. If there's anything else I could say, just look at the contrast between how Republicans have done things and how Democrats have done things. Republicans, it's been grassroots. If you would have asked me a year ago, in fact, people did ask me a year ago, do you think Donald Trump's going to be your nominee? And my response was, no, I don't believe he is. I did not see that particular bet. Now, I was neutral in all this. I'm quarterback. You hike the ball to me, and whatever nominee you give me, I'm there. I'm going to do everything humanly in my power to get them elected. That's the role of the state chair. State chair is the role of the state chair to tell you what to do. It's to receive your thoughts. And in fact, if I cease doing that, you need to get rid of me. And so I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the ball to be hiked. Didn't think the ball was going to be Donald Trump. Okay, it is. And there's a real big lesson there besides the merits of Donald Trump and how he's going to march his way into the White House. And the reason is, and the merits is, we listened. We listened. There were some pretty powerful people in the Republican Party that would have rather Donald Trump not been the nominee. I mean, we're still hearing residual accounts of that. With all due respect, I hope Senator Sass just be quiet. He can't be helpful. You know what? I'm tired of that. I really am. I'm tired. That's the party that gave him power and gave rise to his having a place to stand. It's time for him to, or else he's going to create a never Sass movement if he's not careful before he even tries to run for president, because in my opinion, that's what his quotes are all about. Sorry, but I'm tired of that over in eastern Iowa, hearing from that across the Missouri River. But the bottom line is, we listen. The people gave us Donald Trump. They spoke very, very loudly and very, very clearly. What is the Republican Party going to do? We're going to send Donald Trump to the White House. On the other hand, what does the Democrats do? All I got to bring up is superdelegates. My goodness, I can't even imagine standing on Saturday, we had our Republican convention. I can't even imagine standing in front of 2,500 Republicans and explaining the superdelegate process, which basically means if we don't like what you've done, we're going to get a bunch of people and we're going to force them down your throat and we're going to have the person become the nominee that we want. I mean, just look at those two. I'd be willing to say this to the LA Times or the New York Times or any other liberal organ of the Democratic Party. I mean, we practice what we preach here, folks. This is bottom-up stuff. And I think regardless of whether you were in favor of Donald Trump from the beginning or whether you were in favor of someone else strong, we can be proud as Republicans that we are in a system where we listen. We don't have superdelegates. We don't have nonsense where you can go in and take the scales and weigh them in one way or the other. Now, different people are at different stages of acceptance. I mean, some of you put your heart and soul into another candidate. I get that. That's passion. That's exactly what we want. And it takes a while when you have to realize that the person you thought was absolutely the best person to lead this country is not going to have that chance this year. Because we all boil down to one of two entities in this state. I mean, yeah, we're going to have some third parties. Third parties are not going to win the presidency this year. We know that. And so we basically got Hillary or Donald Trump. That's the bottom line. And if you want Hillary, you can do one of three things. You can vote for her. You can vote for a third party, a presidential candidate that is not going to win. Or you can stay home. Those are the three ways that you help Hillary Clinton. It's absolutely positively the ways that you're going to help her. Or you can vote for Donald Trump. That's it. There's no other choices. We've heard the people. The Republican Party doesn't say that we are going to listen to the grassroots as long as you agree with me. Because let me tell you something, folks. I talked to a lot of people 4 years ago about voting for Mitt Romney that didn't want to vote for Mitt Romney. And I gave them the same speech. 8 years ago, I talked to a lot of people that were not particularly excited about voting for John McCain. But most of them came around and voted for John McCain. The same thing. If we want to beat the likes of the Clintons, we have to be swimming in the same direction, or they will sink us. There is no doubt about it. I really truly believe this is ours to lose. I think this is what we have to do. You know, like your candidate, you don't have to love your candidate, you don't have to be passionate about your candidate. And if you want to do it, if you just want to think about just some mere facts, I think it's undisputable. Absolutely undisputable. I can put on my old professor's hat over there. Yeah, I'm one of those conservative PhD guys. And after thinking about it and analyzing it, Republicans and conservatism is the best thing for this country and this state, is the conclusion I've come to. I know that probably won't get me a tenure at Harvard, but by golly, it gets me by over in Eastern Iowa. But the bottom line is that we have to move in the same direction. And think about this, a President Trump versus a President Clinton, and who is appointed to be the Supreme Court Justice. There is zero doubt, folks, zero, that President Trump will appoint more conservative judges than President Clinton. There is no doubt about it. And he's even given us a sneak preview of who they would be. And the likes of Charles Grassley has said he likes that list. President Trump will have fewer regulations on entrepreneurship. Now, they may not be as few as what you want. There's the issue where Republicans can have the debate. And you know what? If you want to weigh in on that, be in the team. Be in the swimming pool. Then you can have that. Say, we're not done. You think Donald Trump, now all of a sudden our policies are frozen in place? Absolutely. We just know the person that's going to be the standard bearer for Republican policies. We're just now starting about what kind of policies those are going to be. And it doesn't matter if you were a Cruz supporter, or if you were a Rubio supporter, or a Fiorina supporter. If you're along for this ride, you can actually have an impact on what a President Trump is going to do. We just started our grassroots campaign after we get this gentleman in the White House. A President Trump is going to have much more business-friendly environment that he's going to create. What does that mean? Let's join in and let's have that debate. After we're in there, that's what we're going to do as Republicans. And you know what? I think he's going to be asking independents, and I know there's a lot of strong conservative Democratic Union members in Council Bluffs. I was in Ottumwa, that's a strong union town. You know what I found out about 1980? If you talk to those folks and you tell them we will listen, you know what? I have one word message for a lifelong conservative Democrat union member. If that person decides to join our party to vote for Donald Trump, I got one word, and it's welcome. That's the word. And we do not have to sacrifice principle to say welcome. All we have to do is articulate what we believe in. And I really smell a 1980-esque ability to reach out here. I really, truly do, without sacrificing principle. It's not an either or. There will be people tell you it has to be an either or. Those folks that better go back and study presidential politics just a little bit better, because we have got hundreds of examples where it does not have to be that. So I would just, think about Hillary Clinton. I mean, if Hillary Clinton was the President of the United States, every single person in this room, and I know this is kind of a somber thought, but to me, it's what hits home. It's what keeps me up at night, to be honest with you. Donald Trump doesn't keep me up at night. Okay, not getting every single solitary thing that I want in the legislature doesn't keep me up at night. What keeps me up at night is Hillary Clinton appointing 3 justices, which is about what she would get for 8 years, and for the rest of our lives, not a single one of us in this room will be alive to see another conservative or even fair Supreme Court if Hillary Clinton is the next president. I want you to think about that. You will never in your lifetime see another conservative or fair Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court decisions that will come out of there will gut our Second Amendment rights. It will dramatically change how families interact with each other, how parents and their kids interact with each other. We know that. Look what's going on right now in terms of the infringement into our personal and individual lives. The stakes could not be higher. Now let's take a look at this unity that I'm talking about has to extend all the way back from the presidential level downward. And I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about Mike Grunstall. When I was in the Iowa House, Mike Grunstall was the majority leader, aka Emperor. Why? Because those Democratic senators allow him to be. I'll guarantee you one thing. When your senator is a committee chair next year, I will guarantee, I know a lot of those Republican senators over there, and they will never allow one person lead them wherever the heck they want to go. They're too independent. There's going to be some debate in a Republican-led Senate. All I would ask you is take a look at the contrast between the House and the Senate right now. The House, are there some Republican bills coming out of there? You better believe there are. But let me tell you something, you'd be hard-pressed, and I've served there. I've been behind the scenes. I know how the sausage is made. You would be hard-pressed to find a Republican bill coming out of the Iowa House that didn't have some input, some significant input from Democratic House members there. We're not talking about Mike Grunstall being Democrat and ramming Democratic bills through and Republicans pushing through. Absolutely, there's going to be differences in tax policy. We expect that. There's going to be differences across the board. I'm talking about how this thing occurs and how Mike Grunstall handles himself. There is very little more important, and I think both parties agree, than water quality right now. There was at least 5 different options that the House wanted to debate, or wanted to have debated over in the Senate. 5 different options. Heck, the House and the governor weren't even exactly on the same page, because that's what Republicans do. We're not afraid to debate out loud, because hopefully in the end we all know we can come together. Win some, lose some, but don't lose sight of the goal. What did Mike Grunstall do? He absolutely, one person, prevented a debate on water quality. I'm not talking about Mike Grunstall killed Terry Branstad's water quality bill. Now, if I'd said that, I said, all right, maybe there's some politics. No, Mike Grunstall prevented a debate on the entire topic when there were 5 different options and there could have been even more on the table. And that's not even allowing the Senate Republicans to even weigh in hardly so they can weigh in, but he doesn't pay any attention. And there's so many other things. Partial birth abortions. Who stopped that? Mike Grunstall. Partial birth abortions, for crying out loud, folks. We're not talking about mainstream partisan differences here. We're talking about something that the majority of Democrats don't even agree with. Mike Grunstall stopped that dead cold. There was absolutely nothing more that he wanted. Voter ID. Voter ID. You know that thing you got to show when you buy cigarettes at a convenience store? Yeah, we didn't even have a debate on that. Those are the kind of things that Mike Grunstall saw. You want to know what bothers me about Mike Grunstall? And to be honest with you, I continue to mention him, but really, shame on the other 25 Democratic senators that allow it to happen. Yep. Because they're the ones that do that.
That's right.
But the bottom line is, he is actually impacting the very process of debate and consensus. That's what bothers me the most. When you don't even allow a debate. There was a couple of issues this year in the Iowa House that were very contentious. Medical marijuana was very contentious. And I mean, there were House members that absolutely were adamantly in favor, and there were House members that were adamantly opposed. And you know what? That's an issue on which Republicans can reasonably disagree. And you know what we did? You know what they did? They didn't do like Mike Grunstall. Linda Hutmeyer comes up and says, no debate, and then move on and call your bosses in Iowa City and say, what should I do next? You know what they did? They debated it on the floor. That's what they did. So you don't have to listen to the Republican chair. Just look at the evidence of the difference between how a Republican-led House handles things and how a Democratic-led Senate. The difference is not even necessarily in the outcome of the bills. The difference is what kind of dialogue do you get to have in the actual chamber. Mike Grunstall is probably as anti-First Amendment. And I realize, oh my goodness, you shouldn't say that because that's Democratic territory. Well, what the world do you call it when you don't allow 24 senators to weigh in on issues that are important for almost 1/2 of the state of Iowa? You can dress it up all you want, folks. And so what can you folks do over here in Council Bluffs? You can topple the emperor. And then you're going to see those other 25, but Lord, they're going to be running everywhere. They're not going to know what to do without the emperor telling them what to do. And you've got 3 candidates that are running here to go against Mike Grunstall. And let me tell you something, all I can say, I'm going to let Council Bluffs folks figure out which one should be, but whichever one you give to me, I'm ready. Okay, I'm under the center, I'm ready to call the play. You hand that person to me and we're in 1,000% of the Republican Party. And so I can't emphasize how much this really, truly is not just words of how important Council Bluffs, how important of a role you can play. Mike Grunstall's seat will be in play. Mike Ronstall's seat is going to be in play. And don't think he's out there door knocking. I mean, because I'm hearing, of course, he always door knocks, and then hopefully the media catches him, and then he can, he has 7 doors that he door knocks. Okay, we know that. Or maybe you go out 10 days in a row, knock 10 doors, and then make sure you get pictures of him each time wearing a different shirt. We don't all know how those games are played. He's door knocking, guys. He's door knocking.
Every house.
Absolutely. And from a person that has been there and done that, you don't door knock every house unless you can feel it breathing down your neck.
I've run into him.
Did you say hello?
I did.
I'll be honest with you, over at Eastern Iowa, I call him the Pied Piper of Council Bluffs. And I said, if they're not careful, he's going to lead those 25 Democrats right into the Missouri River. But over here, it doesn't make any sense because he's actually here by now. But no, I mean, I just shake my head. So just know this when you're talking to people about Mike Ronstall. It's not about him bringing home some bacon back to Council Bluffs. If there's economic development out there, believe me, your senators are going to make the argument in a fair way for Council Bluffs, and you've got some good economic development that's happening here. And so that you can play fair. By the way, this is about the very process of how we handle things in Des Moines in terms of our active debate. That's what's up for grabs here. Mike Ronstall is subverting the democratic process in the Iowa Capitol. And I know that's pretty strong terms, but all I would ask is every single person that you talk to that doubts that, ask them to look at a Republican-led House with a bigger majority than Mike Ronstall has, and a Democratic-led Senate, and then make up your minds. I don't think it's an overstatement at all. I want to mention a little something about Senator Grassley. Something that hit me very personal over the weekend was when Patty Judge, who the powers that be in D.C. have decided is going to run against him. Once again, grassroots, Republicans, handed down either through superdelegates or through dollars or however they choose to do that. It's going to be Patty Judge. She ran, and I was absolutely stunned. I didn't think I don't know if this is stupidity or guts, but she's actually right. I don't know if you've seen it, but she's actually running an ad where she talks about the agency to rebuild Iowa office back in 2008 with the floods. Well, here's the only problem with that. Your Republican chair was on that committee. It was an absolute disaster. I would no more put that, it would be like my first prom date of 80 and put that up there on my resume. It was a disaster, folks. I was so nervous I couldn't talk. She didn't last 3/4 of the night. She went home. And I don't put that on my resume anymore. Patty Judge should sure in the heck not be putting the Rebuild Iowa office on her resume. One of the first things they did, I was there. Again, this isn't talking points from your Republican chair. I was there in the room. I had people that were homeless in Rochester, Iowa, in Cedar Valley, Iowa. I mean, my friends saw everything washed away. And I sat up there in Des Moines under a Patty Judge-led Rebuild Iowa office, and the first order of business when we went in there was to buy $20,000 worth of carpet. And I know she just writes that all up. I said, well, we had to do that. No, you spent 20 grand on carpeting. We actually had to debate it. I raised Cain, obviously, with it. And those are the kind of things she did. There wasn't a single person in that Rebuild Iowa office. Listen to this. There wasn't a single person in that Rebuild Iowa office that was making less money than any of those individuals that had lost everything. It was a shambles. They had to fire the director after. Well, I think she voluntarily left, but we all know what happened. It was an absolute shambles what Patty Judge did. And I suppose if it's a shambles for the Department of Cultural Affairs, something like that, where life and death isn't an issue, maybe you can forgive that. We have people living in trailers in Lynn County and in my district, and Patty Judge has the guts. That's not guts. I don't know. I don't even know what you call it. Gall, yeah. I wish I had a stronger word. I should have looked up my thesaurus for it. To actually use that as a reason why people should vote for her. And let me say something else about I've been teaching government for 25 years. I've actually read the Constitution. Evidently, Patty Judge has not had time. Maybe she had carpeting to pick out for other places throughout Iowa. But the Constitution is very clear what the role of the Senate is in picking a Supreme Court justice. It's to advise and consent. There is nothing that is even implied in the Constitution that you must hold a hearing. Now, I could spend all day over here talking about all the hypocrisy of all the times the Democrats said don't vote on it. You know what? I don't even need that, because I don't want to be like the Democrats. So you just focus on what the Constitution says. Can you think of anything more constitutional and more democratic than waiting for the people to weigh in when you know you have an absolute difference in how those Supreme Court justices are going to be appointed? You wait and let the people decide on that. There is nothing that is more grassroots than that, and there is nothing in that Constitution. Absolutely not. If not, then our constitutional scholar Barack Obama certainly needed to fail his constitutional class because he suggested the exact same thing. So enough of that nonsense and those talking points. I guess they assume that that if you say something enough over and over and over, maybe it becomes true. And then finally, a couple of last words on Trump that I'd be happy to add if the paper has anything they'd like to ask me. Just a couple more things about Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. And just the fact that whatever time you need to get comfortable with Donald Trump as a Republican nominee, take that time. But please, when you talk to people, do not delude yourself to think that not voting or voting for a third-party candidate is somehow not supporting Hillary Clinton. Okay? You can look at it statistically, ethically, constitutionally, any way you want to look at it, and that's exactly what that is. Folks, we don't have another 8 years to spend. Honestly, we don't. We're going to be over $20 trillion in debt. I don't even know how to explain, when I talk to my students, I don't even know how to explain 20 trillion. I don't even know what I know you can say 20 trillion pennies go around the moon. I don't know how far the moon is. Okay? So 20, if after 8 more years of Barack Obama, which is exactly what Hillary Clinton would be, we're going to probably be at 30 trillion in debt. We're going to have fundamental changes. Things could not be more important than what they are right now. We have got to take this grasp. And the final thing that I would offer to you, and I guess I'm assuming that the majority in here are either there already or on your way. I'm talking about when you have conversations with other people. But the real thing that keeps me up at night is the conversation that I'll never have. Now, what do I mean by that? I think of a conversation in about 70 years with my great-grandchildren or great-great-grandchildren. Individuals that I'll never meet, the great-greats at least, I'll never meet, not after this job, as much hair as I've lost. But I think about those. And then I think about, if they ask me the question, great-great-grandpa or grandma, or personalize yourself in there, what did you do to prevent this? Because I will guarantee you in history, this is one of those moments where we either go like that, or we go like that, and start to even things out. What do I mean by that? You name it. The national debt, the attack on families, the attack on individual liberty, attack on the Second Amendment, I can go on and on and on. And think about if you can have that imaginary conversation, if the reason you're hesitating to vote for Donald Trump today, you ask yourself in 70 years, if you're answering that question to your great-great-grandkids, who are saying, what did you do to help prevent this? We're living in a mess. Is the excuse you're giving yourself right now, is that going to be enough when you look in their eyes? Folks, I don't think it is. I don't think it is. I think things are really, honest to goodness, that important. I really do. And so I would just ask you to look at this in the big picture. Donald Trump's going to be appointing about 4,000 people. Those 4,000 will probably appoint another 200,000. Out of that 250,000 people that this administration is going to bring in, I'll bet you're going to like 95% of them. Think of it that way too. This presidency is bigger than one individual. It is an administration you bring in. You're going to like, especially when contrasted with Hillary Clinton, what you see. Other than that, I don't have any strong opinions on Republicanism in Iowa.
Mr. Chairman, I tell you, my experience has been here lately anyway. It's been a real big sigh of relief, basically, that Donald Trump is now gone. Before that was assured, I guess, I was getting more comments and more emails, at least from Potawatomi County Republicans, stating their distrust of a convention, a brokered convention, and the fact that several of them were even going as far as to re-register as something other than Republican. Should Donald Trump get be shown the door in some fashion at the convention. So he is the nominee, it looks like it's gonna happen. I'm not hearing anything other than kudos.
That's great, Jeff, to hear that, and you'll be happy to know that your chair of Iowa was one of the first chairs in the country to basically say, we don't need somebody being swept into Cleveland to help us protect ourselves.
And I was there when you said that, and I applaud you.
But I think, I appreciate, I was getting nervous, I can say that now, I was getting a little nervous, and, you know, we just need to, that's why, I mean, that's why some of these folks just need to, like Mitt Romney, I mean, I voted for Mitt Romney, I'm disappointed in Mitt Romney, very disappointed. I mean, he wanted Donald Trump's endorsement, he bragged about Donald Trump's endorsement, and now to do this much, come on now, that's disappointing. And not that he doesn't like Donald Trump. Okay, you think I like every Republican I meet, folks? Of course not. My mother-in-law's Republican. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean seriously, no. There's just some things that are just not cool, as my kids would say. Mitt Romney, his comments, Senator Sass, those comments, that's just not cool. My opinion. And I think I speak for most Republicans when I say that. I hope I can try anyway. Anything else? Thank you, all of you, for what you do. Honestly, that's not just rhetoric when I tell you that Council Bluffs can change everything. You really can, folks. As soon as you hike that ball to me, I'm in 100% over here in your beautiful community. So, and I'll be back at least a couple more times for November. So.